Greetings, aloha from tropical Montana, Montana Skywatchers. This is Samuel Hoffman. How are you doing today? Today is the 23rd of February, 2017. Figured we'd do a little bit of catch-up on everybody and try to get everybody up in line. What we're staring at here is Atu and Yuri, and they're on their way back in again and doing their little dance right in front of our very faces and bringing off its extremely radical weather and bumpy bottom of the base cloud and little other things that happen to be on the facial attachment of the front of Atu. A lot of you guys know what I'm talking about, and maybe some of you don't yet, because we've pretty much gotten a good enough, close enough views of Atu and Yuri recently that we've seen either a moon on this side of the face of Atu or on this side, depending on what part of the day and the rotation and the Passover that has been going on. Okay, so a lot of really screwy, cool things have been going on, including a faster transition of movement past the planets than we have seen over the last few years. So well, let's just try and get started here. Anyway, what's going on is some really big changes, some really cool stuff, and then with the announcement yesterday of NASA discussing pretty much what we've been talking about, yet giving off a bunch of half-truths and everything else, including the fact that NASA referred to this planetary group that they found all being Earth-sized. Well, Earth is kind of a pretty small planet, so if they're finding a solar system out there with Earth-sized planets, well, there's something wrong with that statement right there alone. But I could go on, and I won't go into that, because we know that we're getting half-truths and we're getting old information, and we also know we're being lied to, because we see these things at Montana Skywatchers by eye every day, and I've got worldwide members, and they're all sending in their pictures, and these pictures don't lie. They tell the truth. You know, you can go out to YouTube, and you can go to Facebook, and you get all these things from Twitter and everything else, but the facts are the facts are the facts, and the truth is we've got hundreds of thousands of pictures of these planets right next to Earth. Anyway, I'm moving on. Okay, recently, this has been pretty much where we've been within the last week or two. Of course, you notice the date on the bottom of the corner is January 17th. A lot of that has occurred, and a lot of that stays stable. But during the day, we do some really fast movements, and what we've done is transition from this off in December, and roughly around December 25th, there was a new planetary alignment where they stacked up 1, 2, 3, 4 and everything, and a lot of changes have been happening since then. And if you indigos out there have noticed a change in your mood and your presence and how things are coming to you, well, then you kind of, I'm sure, may know what I'm talking about. And again, if you are a really serious, true indigo, and I say true indigo, not a crystal or a couple other things, feel free to contact me. We need to talk. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to share with a lot of folks. And I'd also like to point that out to you. If you're having trouble, get hold of me. Just keep trying, or send a message through a friend to a friend to a friend, and we can even get you a phone number at some point in time. Okay, well, let's move on to what's been happening with the planets. Okay, a lot of you know this standard sun pick, so I'm going to move it this time. I'm going to flip it down to here at the bottom, because this is the horizon. This is where the sun has been. Now, recently, myself and quite a few others, we have noticed the re-arrival of Saru and Nibiru. Now, a lot of you have seen this in Mexico webcams where everybody's been watching the transition. A lot of people have been citing this really small object next to the sun. I've lost my pointer. Okay, some people have been seeing an object next to the sun here or here, and then there's been a larger white object right here below one of the shadows, and we'll get to that part here just in a second. Now, recently, and we've got a lot of pictures to prove this, recently we've all noted that Saturn is over the top of the sun, and there's been actually some pictures where there's been thread reaches from the sun to the planet itself and to the facial yellow moon. Saturn has the yellow moon, and it is what puts off the winged planet look. And a lot of times all you'll see is the illuminated yellow moon, and you will not see Saturn itself. But anyway, moving on. So a lot of folks have been seeing the yellow moon of Saturn, and then there's the other bright object here, and then of course other objects over here, and we'll get to that as we build here. Now, for the longest time, it was Yuri and Atu stacked over on the right-hand side, and we went through that pretty much, literally from mid-2015 on. Well, some changes have come. They had set back in for a while, and Isatum, or excuse me, Nepesity had been coming in over the top of everything, and then during the day had been covering in over the top of us, and pretty much cloaking up our entire major lower sky. Well, Nepesity has now started moving backwards, and the reason that is because we're actually rounding past Nepesity and away from Isatum, even though they appear to be where they are. Isatum is actually much bigger than Nepesity overall. It just has to do with location, how far back. We know that Isatum is near the sun, whereas we know that Saru and Nibiru are between us and the sun, but yet they are so massive that they fill up the upper regions. Now, we have noticed that Nepesity is starting to move back. It's still during the day, still comes up and does a passover and fills the sky right in front of us like this, and then moves its way up over like this. And then we're seeing a lot of the Saru reemergence effect, where Nibiru and Saru are now becoming visible. And myself and Jamie have been noticing that in the darker areas, there's been this huge darkness behind what is now transitioning with Attu and Uri. And that transition, as of recently, has gone like this. And let's see if I can get this all together here without losing everything. I apparently have lost my smaller Attu with her moon. Uri has come forward again, and you can't really call it Uri coming forward, because in actuality it's Earth that's moving towards Uri and then headed around this way, because we've noticed an onset of Attu where it has been crossing over the sun in some places, and in other places it's crossing over the top of the sun, and then we've seen the bubbly cloud effect as it comes in. Now, a lot of folks have been seeing Attu. Oh, I found the one with the moon. A lot of folks have been seeing Attu come in from, like in Mexico cams, it comes in the day and then goes over the top of people's heads and then gets smaller and smaller and smaller and cuts off the sun, does this huge weird solar cutoff flare where the light is now emitting to this side toward. And now we've even seen some pictures where the light is actually starting to shine behind Attu and come over to here where it's shining through here. But during the day, Attu has been doing that pull over and then crossing the sun. Now, in a lot of pictures, and now depending on folks on the East Coast, they have been seeing Attu doing the crossing, and then they're seeing the facial white moon in some cases actually over here in front of Attu itself. But anyway, Attu has been moving across the sun during the day, and Isatum has been coming overhead and then setting back and getting farther and farther and farther back to the view like this, where we're seeing Nibiru again, we're seeing Saru again, and those guys in the back are moving that way, which tells us that we're turning around and closer into these objects. We're coming into them, and that's why they're getting larger, because we've gone around the bottom of Nepesity after passing Isatum in 2016. We went around the backside of these guys, and they're above us and between us and the sun overall, with a little bit of passing effect, which is why we're starting to see the illuminated frontal face of Attu as she's coming in during the day from behind us. Now, in magnetosphere pictures from the last 2-3 weeks on Earth, the standard model magnetosphere pictures, you can get them from BP, Earthwatch, and those guys. They've been seeing these black lines and these red lines and stuff behind the Earth in its magnetosphere, and that's because Attu and Uri are both proceeding in a faraway wake, and then they're moving over the top of us. Now, for a week or so last week, we were seeing Uri come in and then go subhorizontal like this. Well, that has changed really fast. Now, all of a sudden, Uri's going up like this and getting bigger. And then we're seeing a facial illumination off the front of Uri as well, because she's standing here like this. It's sort of an angle toward where if Earth was down here, and we're seeing a facial illumination of these planets as the sun rises and comes up in the morning. As the sun comes up, we're seeing an illuminated very bright face of these planets. And then At2 has been moving in across like that. Anyway, so I've done a 10-minute video giving you the heads up of what's going on. At2 is coming in. Now, I strongly suggest everybody pay attention to the location of At2, because I think she's going to cause us some serious, serious Midwest weather from Texas all the way up to Michigan and everything else, from Denver, Colorado to Michigan to Minnesota and everything, even today as we speak, if not in the next few days. Now, you got to check into these things. It's the bubbly, gigantic mantis clouds. They're not normal. This is not just a storm, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, aloha from tropical Montana. I want everybody to pay attention to this, because I think our weather's up to some really cool stuff. Pretty spooky, too. Take care, everybody. Aloha. Samuel Hoffman saying bye. All right, you guys have a good day.